Okay. Welcome, everybody, to this very special webinar organized by the Council's Collaborations and Operations Committee. Thank you, Dr. McMenamin and Dr. Larson, for making this happen. I'm Jake Farbin with the Council of County Colleges Center for Student Success. You're not going to hear a lot from me. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping on the front end. First, we're pleased to offer this webinar to everybody. We hope it is valuable to all of you. For those of you who are on the line, if you're not one of our presenters, we're just going to ask if you can please mute your audio, only because we want to make sure we don't get any background noise as we're recording this and everyone can hear our presenters okay. So that's part one. Part two, if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to enter those into the chat function. I'll be monitoring those, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll help facilitate the Q&A. We're also recording this, so we'll get this out to all of you. If you're not yet done so, if you're able to enter your name and college and email address in the chat function, we'll make sure you get this recording when it is available. And finally, we're also pleased to share with all of you, if you've not yet seen the announcements, the Student Services Affinity Group is doing a series of individualized deep dive meetings every Thursday at 3, except for this Thursday, being that it's the Thursday before the holiday. Every Thursday at 3, the month of July. And if you'd like more information about that, just type that in the chat as well, and we'll get you the invite to that as well. So with all of that, it's my great pleasure to turn this over to Dr. McMenamin, the president of Union County College and co-chair of the Council's Collaboration and Operation Committee. Dr. McMenamin.
Thank you, Dr. Farbin, and welcome. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone's faces. If you don't have your camera on, turn it on. Let us see you. We want to see you. This morning's meeting is an outgrowth of a conversation, first a formal conversation from the Collaborations Operations, and an informal conversation among several presidents when we were talking about the things that worry us, the things that we're prioritizing, the things that keep us up at night. And one of them, as you know, is enrollment. So as we were discussing enrollment, President...
taking a call.
Hang on, mute yourselves, guys. President Larson from Ocean County College spoke up, and he generously offered to share some of the insights that he has gained and that his staff have on improving enrollment or increasing enrollment during this COVID time. Some of the things they're going to talk to us about are things you could do at any time, but some of them are ripe for us to use during this summer of COVID-19 as we're all wondering what's going to happen and struggling with getting connected to students. Ocean County College has some ideas, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, President Larson, and thank him for his generosity, to his willingness to work with us and to share all of his insights. President Larson.
Well, thank you very much, Maggie. It was a great introduction, and my ears are burning right now, but we're very, very pleased with what we have been able to accomplish here today. I want to just start off by saying thank you to everybody who has tuned in. It looks like there's 102 people online. We think that's absolutely fabulous. And I think what you'll hear from our talented team today is something that any place can do, but it isn't something you can do in a short while. We began this with a strategic plan many years ago to, wherever possible, hire the best talent we could find. And what you're going to hear today are a bunch of very talented people who found their way to OCC, sometimes through a door that you wouldn't expect they would end up where they did. But we appreciate you joining us, and we can learn from everyone today. First, let me say that we began this process looking at the larger picture, and the entire team, we do everything in a team fashion. We do everything, we make our decisions jointly. We get together and talk them through, and we try to achieve consensus before we decide where to go. And we encourage people to speak up, to use their God-given talent and innovative instincts, and to essentially press forward. And if they make mistakes or they fall down, we forgive and move on and hope that they'll continue to try. So all of that seems to have worked out beautifully. It led to a number of things that are sort of overarching. One was changes in the organizational structure. I'm not going to get into the details because that's part of the presentation, but changing the structure has made a huge difference. We've created a couple of new units that never existed before, and they are the reason why we're succeeding. We removed a whole array of barriers to students entering the institution. And that was done because of a data-driven decision process. We've had some wonderful analytical analysis done by Jerry Racioppi, the leader of this group, and the entire team. And it's turned up a number of things that you'll hear about that have made a huge difference. Another is the policy changes that go with that. We discovered that our policies were actually working against us, and we've made major sweeping changes in policies having to do with admission primarily. Staff acquisition, staff organization, staff training, and realignment of how they work and where they are when they work has made an enormous difference. Again, it's the talent factor that has really made a difference. We have also made investments in technologies, a whole array of technologies, some of them kind of risky at first, it looked like, but they have paid off. And one of the things that we think can be done at any location is to do the same kind of invention of this search and find and try, and if it doesn't work, abandon it and move on. But investing in technology, we could not do what we're doing if it were not for the various kinds of really wonderful technologies that frankly are ones that are in common use by the proprietary collegiate sector. The University of Phoenixes of the world have been using these approaches and techniques and technologies for some time. And what we've done is just buy the latest version of those and put them into play. You'll hear all about that in just a minute. But above all, I want to say it's the investment in talented, innovative leaders like those who are presenting today. So to introduce our team and get things started, here is Dr. Jerry Racioppi, the Vice President for Student Affairs.
Thank you, Dr. Larson. Appreciate that wonderful introduction. And we are glad to be here today to talk about some of the things that we've done.
Okay, Jerry, I don't know if you can hear me, but we cannot hear you any longer, so something happened. If you're not able to continue, how about, Sheenah, how about if you step in? I presume you can pick up and speak for Jerry, but Jerry, try to get that fixed if you can. So Sheenah, go ahead.
I will. Thank you, Dr. Larson. Thank you to the council for having us here to present to you some of the changes that we've made in the past several years, the outcomes of those changes. I am going to dive right in actually and share my screen. We'll give Jerry a chance to see if he can pick up. Otherwise, we're going to cruise on through. So we are just going to share the screen here and present. So we're going to walk you through the proactive enrollment processes, the things that we have done and changed. Jerry, do I hear you?
I think maybe. Can you hear me?
Great. We sure can. I'd like to give the overview of our presentation.
Sure. Thank you. I was having problems with one computer, so I switched to another, and for some reason, Zoom's default is to have the microphone off. That's very clever. Yes, Sheenah is with us, and also Dr. AJ Trump, who you'll meet later. And so what we're going to cover today is on the screen. It is a sort of a chronological walk through what we've done, and also a dive into, as Dr. Larson mentioned, some of the systems, some of the philosophies that we're utilizing to accomplish what we're doing. We're looking forward to hopefully a good discussion at the end as well. So Sheenah, could you please go to the next slide?
To give you a general overview of Ocean County College, where we are coming from, who we are, we sit just minutes from the Jersey Shore, which we alluded to before is having lovely weather right now. It's about 85 degrees and sunny. We are on a 275-acre campus founded in 1964. We have nearly 50 areas of study, including AAS, AS, and AA degrees, as well as a variety of certificate programs. We've had nearly 20 new buildings built in the past 18 years, including a new student center, a new nursing building. There is also a new student enrollment building that is currently underway. We have international partnerships currently in Egypt, and a very ambitious vision statement, which I will read to you. It's Ocean County College will be the boldest, most creative, most innovative, student-centered college in America. And by pioneering community college education internationally, it would be a prototype for global education. So we had a lot of work to do to fulfill that vision statement and make it a reality. We realized that we needed to do something different. We had faced a declining enrollment through 2018, which was not a unique situation for community colleges, and you can see our fall enrollment falling between 2014 and 18. If we continued to do everything exactly how we had been doing it before, and frankly, community colleges were doing that. We were accustomed to existing, and students would walk through our door and our enrollment would increase. However, the students have changed. And we'll talk more about how our students have changed. We now have Gen Z. It's a different type of student. We needed to change our ways to meet their needs. The declining enrollment, of course, was at the forefront of our decision-making in order to bolster that. And as Dr. Larson spoke about earlier, there was an increased technology. The advances and functionality allowed us to be more intrusive than ever, streamline our processes, and use our resources in a smarter way.
So this graph that you see before you is another really compelling reason why we need to really be nimble and shift. What this represents is the changes in the size of the head counts of Ocean County Public Schools, starting with the class of 2019 and going all the way to the class of 2031. 2031 was the first grade class last year when I ran these numbers, and this data is readily available on the New Jersey Department of Education's website, and it gave us a view into what is coming in terms of the high school population. And so as we move through this, keep in mind that while we're working to maximize our high school,
There he goes. That's okay. He went out again. Go ahead, Sheenah. You wanna grab it?
No, AJ, you finish this one.
So Jerry was going to say, as we're working to definitely maximize our high school
students,
we for sure are also working on the non-traditional side, because that's an area for growth, and our international partnerships. So very important that we don't just focus on the high school. As you can see, there's 1,000 less high school students anticipated to come out of Ocean County high schools, over the next decade. So we had to find new ways. You back, Chair?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I apologize for my internet connection. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll do my best here. So here's the philosophy that we're following. And really, a lot of this is built on experiences that a number of us have had in for-profit education. We know time is valuable. We know that people expect a smooth experience when they buy something. And, they are our customers, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. And so we think that the smoothest experience that we can provide is what must be done. I have a pair of shoes on this slide because on my first meeting with Dr. Larson, my first day, he said, Jerry, I want you to make the process of becoming a new student at OCC as simple as buying a pair of shoes on Amazon.com. And so that was the goal that was set before me. I like to think that we rose to the challenge. And the purchase, and I have on the bottom here, the purchasing experience is more than just being nice. Customer service isn't just about being nice to people. It's about creating processes and structures so that people don't feel like you're just putting them through the mill when they come to your school. And can we have the next slide?
It's a shame that Jerry faded out because this is his favorite slide, but I will jump in for him. When Jerry showed up at Ocean County College, the matriculation process was 12 steps. There we go. Go ahead.
12 steps. 12 steps are appropriate in some parts of life, but I don't think when you're trying to become a college student that works. We have simplified it to 5, and actually now during COVID, it's 3. Apply, register, and pay. That's what we've been able to boil it down to. We were very reactive. We would wait for students to come to us. And I think this is a pretty standard approach for community colleges and basically for public higher education in general. And what we shifted to was a system of proactive nudges and utilizing a CRM and an AI chatbot that we're going to talk about later to move students through the matriculation pipeline rather than sending them emails that they won't read and hoping that they come, which is a lot of what you see in public higher ed. A siloed approach. This is, sort of the Henry Ford approach to building a student. And, during this, we have, during this process, we have many times relied on students to be our couriers, to carry information from one office to the other, despite the fact that we do have computers that we can all access. And so we have implemented a one-stop. And we will get to questions at the end, but I did see a question pop up about testing. Can we have the next slide, please? And we have moved to a pretty extensive system of multiple measures over the past 2 years, inspired by some of the successes that we have seen around the state. And we have also found that our students are doing quite well if we look at their prior educational experience rather than just making them take the AccuPlacer and hoping they score well. More principles applied. When we go to the high schools, we have this idea called tabling, where you set up a table and you smile at people as they walk by in the halls and hope that they talk to you. And we have a different approach, and it's a college-going program that has really worked well for us and actually has increased our yield from Ocean County high schools by, 7%, I think? And we'll get to that when we get there. And we also, this idea that we hope that students will come because our advertising works. We have been very, very intentional about the way we manage the calls and the emails and the inquiries that come from our advertising. We know exactly why a person is calling when the phone rings so that the person who picks up the phone can go, oh, this is someone who's calling about the CCOG grant versus, oh, this is a person who's calling about evening business. And so it helps us provide much better service when we're interacting with a person who is interested in coming to our school. AJ, you're up.
Hi, everyone. AJ Trump. I am the Director of Admissions at Ocean County College. And it's really nice to see so many familiar faces, from presidents to people from Rowan and the doctoral cohort with me, to former athletic colleagues. So great to see you all. So thanks, Jerry. This is really a kind of part of the nitty-gritty of how we started to become proactive. When Jerry started with us, we piloted and implemented a program that supports and assists high school seniors with the transition to college, regardless of where they're choosing to attend. And what we found, and what kind of made us think to do this is we found that about, when we ran some of those Department of Ed numbers, 30% of high school seniors in Ocean County didn't attend college within 18 months of graduating high school. And we said, oh, what's going on there? Maybe, of course, some might be going the trade school route, but they didn't, but it was, these stats were showing us 30% did nothing. And we saw some really great potential there for us. to do some outreach. So what we did,
Oh, shit.
we
That's loud.
designed a program to eliminate barriers to college entrance through one-on-one workshops and discussions on things like the college selection process, college applications, funding college, financial literacy, what types of aid are available, how to get aid, how to keep aid, FAFSA completion, college placement testing, and also having meaningful conversations about careers and likes and interests, what kind of degree you might need to get those kinds, to get where you want to end up. So the program started, as you can see.
AJ's,
You good? Am I good? Okay. As you can see from this next slide here, we have 4 pillars in our College Pathways program. You know, it started in the year 17-18. We piloted it with one school, and that school liked it so much and talked to other schools in the county. And my apologies for those of you who have seen this presentation, because I know a lot of you from DRAT have seen this. So bear with me here. It grew to 12 the following year in 2018, 2019. It grew to 14 the year after that. And next year, we're going to be at 15 of the 19 area high schools. So we're going to be in almost 80% of our service area high schools. And we actually go to them and deliver these 4 major pillars in small groups to all of their seniors. So it's really, really like we're out there, we're being proactive. We're in front of their seniors 4 times throughout the year in their face. You know, people say, you know, that's, you know, intrusive recruiting. You know, I call it proactive. I call it, you know, helping students. And like I said, the program's not designed to get them to come to OCC, but can. And we also have found that it certainly does. So before I explain the pillars, you're probably wondering how the heck we get the districts to have all their seniors participate. And it was kind of simple. We talked to them about that 30% number and let them know that those were the students we really wanted to reach. We had conversations with superintendents, assistant principals, heads of guidance, principals. And we said that these 30% are students that won't attend optional things. So we asked, is there a way for us to make this mandatory? Could we come in small groups and make this work? We want them. Those are the students we're going after. We're really not interested in stopping somebody that wants to go to or is committed to a 4-year school other than OCC. But what we found is that the program sometimes does accomplish that because these students make some good connections to us. So a little bit back to the program, there's 4 pillars. College 101 is the first pillar. And we go and usually in English or health and phys ed classes in small groups, we deliver presentations at these high schools to students about how to select a college. You know, what's important when looking, finding your fit. You know, we talk about, you know, affordability. We talk everything. We give a little bit of some details about OCC since we're there. But most of the conversation is finding a fit and college selection. And then we have all those students complete a free application to OCC. And we tell them we do this for a number of reasons. One, it's good practice. You'd be surprised how many students don't know what full-time status means, what the word matriculate means, there's a lot of verbiage we use in higher ed that we put on our applications that students just don't know. So we're able to kind of explain that. We get questions like, what's a maiden name? I mean, to us, it's common, you know, we're all like, oh, we know that. But these students have never experienced things like that. So it's really kind of interesting and eye-opening as we take them through. We also get their information, you know, in our system. If they ever want to become a student at OCC as a visiting student, you know, in the summer or in the winter, they have an account in our system. We tell them that. And also when we go out and we do AccuPlacer testing through the program or we do college readiness, they also have an account in our system with the scores linked. So if they want to take them somewhere, they certainly can, and we can supply that for them. So we tell them that's, you know, that's kind of the reasoning that we're having them apply, and it's also good practice. We also go out and do a financial literacy session. Our financial aid office goes out, and they offer a FAFSA workshop for parents, and we found those are really well attended. We go to the districts and actually help parents complete the FAFSA, and it's really been tremendously successful. We have 50 to 60 families sometimes show up. to these workshops at the high schools, and the schools ask for, you know, multiple. For next year, they've asked for multiple of those, so that if parents can't be there, you know, they can come at a different time. We also offer them on our campus, and they're not nearly as well attended as when we do it at the high school. So we're really excited about that, helping make college, you know, more accessible to people. And again, they don't have to be coming to OCC. They could put any school code they wanted. We're going to help anybody that wants to be helped. Then we come in and we'll do career assessment. We use Career Coach, which is a software that you know, does some likes and interests assessment, and it matches students to the best career choice for them, which is really you know, tremendous, because what we found is that the school counselors are saying, hey, can we have some of that data based on their likes and interests? We'd really like to have more discussions with them about it. So we save those and we send them to them, we print them. And it's also good because then the students will say, oh, I always wanted to do that. I didn't know I needed a master's degree to do that. And it kind of gets them starting to think about the level of education that they need, where they want to head, how much it might cost them, you know, what salaries would be, you know, it gets them thinking about those kinds of things. And again, there's the AccuPlacer piece. So following the completion of those 4 pillars, students that are choosing to come to OCC basically have completed all of the steps of our matriculation process. We invite them to campus for a special registration event. And anybody that's definitely coming, you know, we schedule their fall classes, we give them a tour, and we provide them lunch, and we make it like a really fun kind of, hey, great job experience. In the past, we would wait for students, you know, to trek from office to office. Have you applied? Oh, great. Now you have to go walk to testing. Make that appointment. You know, oh, you did that? Okay, great. Oh, did you submit your test scores? And it just took the students a lot of time. And you know, they would start this typically at the very end. Well, now after they go through pathways, they are literally ready to register the minute our fall registration opens. And this has led to tremendous amounts of new students registering early in our fall semester. For our fall semester, it gives us more bandwidth to assist students during the busiest time of the registration period at the end of summer, because most of our new students are done early. Another step we took was to take down barriers by simplifying the process that it takes, like Jerry said, from 12 to 5 and now 5 to 3 steps. And so with that being said, my team has been tasked with new student registration during the pandemic. And we've developed a process with Sheenah's team, our hub, our one-stop express student services team, to assist new students with getting a schedule the easiest way possible. Our philosophy was that the rigor for becoming a college student should be, the rigor for college should be in the classroom and not during the matriculation process. We knew our students were being challenged with new technologies due to their high school classes being moved online. They're worried about things like graduation, prom, and a lot of other things. We were proactive in our thinking. We did all that we could to make registration as simple as possible and remove barriers for them. We did this with the full knowledge that we didn't want to sacrifice those important student development pieces for new students, but just separate them from the enrollment process so that they could get scheduled, they can get enrolled as quickly as possible. And we could talk more, I'm sure, about in the questions and answers about that. After a student applies, which every senior in Ocean County we basically had in our system due to the Pathways program, we promoted registration through a new student registration survey, and we promoted it in multiple modalities, including social media. We have a virtual visit page that took the place of our open house, acceptance emails. We used our high school counselor channels, texts, emails to all applicants, and we're actually doing outreach through the phone calls. Additionally, it's on our main webpage, featured in a register for classes area. And the survey was designed to ask the questions a first-year advisor would ask a new student, so we could develop initial schedules for them. We knew that one-on-one conversations or group sessions to teach students how to plan and schedule classes virtually would really be difficult to execute, very time-consuming, resource-consuming, and we felt like they were so much. We didn't want to put more onto them. And students have many competing priorities. In the past, we were advising these students in a 4-to-1 to 6-to-1 ratio on our campus. Our advising staff had become inundated with current student requests. So it made sense for admissions, my team, who was also cross-trained in new student advising and registration from those previous high school registration event as part of the Pathways programs in the years past to kind of take this on. So after students submit the survey, the hub pre-screens each person. They look for their readiness, testing requirements, any accounting type restrictions, New Jersey STAR status, financial aid concerns, making sure that they've all completed the application. It's a working spreadsheet, and both of our departments have access to it. And once the hub screens these students, prospective students are assigned to an admissions team member who reviews the survey answers and essentially registers a student. It's important to note, we don't require a student to show readiness prior to being registered. This would create really big bottlenecks in our processing time. So to account for this, we significantly adjusted our multiple measures requirements. And this was all part of the pandemic when AccuPlacer went down and Examity went down. Almost all new students are now meeting our multiple measures requirements, and very few need testing or anything else. And we collected transcripts very early on in November with all our Pathways students for anybody that applied. If a student has nothing, we are still going to register them based on the info we have. The developmental sequence has been reduced tremendously this year. There's only a 1 credit English 098 for developmental English, and that gets added on to our college English 151. We still maintain our developmental 4 credit math course. So students that are not in math intensive majors don't have scores or readiness documents or tests. We do avoid registering them in that Math 023 to give them some time to get their transcripts in or to test or to do what they need to do. We're doing coordinated outreach to any newly registered students in developmental courses that has not submitted transcripts, explaining that they may not need to take that 1 credit developmental English. It's also part of our follow-up calls with the students. And so you are aware, most, like I said, transcripts of our applying students are in because we had them apply so early, and we asked for them in November and then again in February based on the College Pathways program. And you know, STAR students can't utilize those multiple measures. So if they have nothing and they don't meet the SAT requirements, we do help sign them up for remote AccuPlacer through Examity. So and just to conclude, you know, as you know, the first schedules for many students are very basic and they're the same. They can go to many different degrees. That also helped a lot with simplifying this process. We work off a shared drive, a shared Excel file. Multiple people can edit it. We enter notes, a registration date. It kicks off a workflow, an email workflow to the student, welcome them to the college. We follow up with a friendly welcoming call, explaining that they can view their first schedule, and then we enter our notes in the Stark screen of Colleague. If a student wants to make changes or discuss their schedule after that, we direct them to make an appointment with an academic advisor. Many students, though, are happy with the schedule and they don't reach out, which reduces the load tremendously on the advising office. When we call and tell the students, congrats, welcome to OCC, you know, your first set of classes have been scheduled based on what you indicated on the survey. If you have any questions, you need to make any changes, you can do so until the day before the semester starts for us. You can also make an appointment with an academic advisor. We send batch emails, and we welcome them with instructions. Here's how you log on to Ocean Connect. Here's a student planning tutorial. These students then enter the communication workflow that already exists for newly registered students that Sheenah's team has become masterful at delivering. So that's a general overview of how we've innovated to reduce barriers and bottlenecks in our enrollment of new students for the fall of 2020. And I will pass this along now to Sheenah.
Thank you, AHI. One of the other pillars that Dr. Racioppi spoke about was the changing in our student demographics. So I wanted to walk you through who our student is. As you probably know and have heard presentations on, most of our students that are coming in are now Gen Z. It's the only micro-generation that's actually defined by a historical event. If we were in a better forum, I would ask you to raise your hand and tell me what that event is, but I am not, so I will tell you. Anybody born between 1995 and 2009, 9/11 is the historical event that defines this population. Somebody born in 1995 was in first grade during 9/11, and they'll likely only learn about it from their history books, and they have no recollection of where they were or what they were doing at this time. To give you some additional characteristics of this generation to help you understand who they are, which will help you understand why we had to change to meet their needs. More than 50% of them claim to be addicted to their mobile device. I have 3 nieces that are 14, 16, and 18, and I would venture a bet it's far greater than 50%. Their ability to multitask surpasses any generation before them. We can look at 2 screens at a time, my cell phone and my laptop and talk on the phone. They actually average about 5 screens at a time. They're the most diverse generation that we've ever had. They will not remember not having a Black president. They won't remember gay marriage not being legal. Nearly 58% of all Gen Zs ages 6 to 21 are actually non-white. They prefer to take their information in by snacking or bite-sized pieces. They would rather have 160 characters of scrolling information, a quick text. They're not going to read a very long document with lots of paragraphs. They're the bullet point generation. They're the DIY generation. They would rather you show them how to fish than to present them with the trout, because of things like YouTube and the cooking channel and HGTV. They're pretty sure they can do it themselves. I sometimes refer to a story of a student that was in the parking lot and had a flat tire. And I called security, and security came over and said, "Can I help you?" And the student said, "No, I'm doing it myself." And they had their YouTube up on their cell phone, and they were changing their tire in our parking lot. So they would much rather do it themselves because they feel more in control that way. As you probably know also, they're the visual generation. Speaking to them directly isn't going to work as well as sending a picture. They can have an entire conversation using emojis, and we need to meet the needs of these students in order to be successful in our recruitment efforts. So how do we meet their needs? They are expecting instant gratification. And that's because that's what they're accustomed to. They have a shorter attention span. In the year 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds. Now it's 8.25 seconds. So the attention span has actually gotten shorter. To put it into perspective for you, and I don't mean this in any negative way, but a goldfish has a 9-second attention span. And so that is the student that we're dealing with. You only have a couple of seconds to get and capture their attention. They want accuracy and consistency. They expect you to have the right answer and the same answer all of the time because they have Google. They can get the right answer and the same answer all of the time, and they would expect the same of us. This is how they grew up. We refer a lot in my department to the Netflix experience. Everyone has been on Netflix, I'm sure. You go on Netflix, you pick a show. The next time you go on, it tells you what you'd like to watch. I think it's a fantastic feature. It saves me from scrolling and searching and thinking, what do I want to watch today? Our students are the same. They've grown up with this technology. I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they don't know what a commercial is. They don't know that you used to have to scroll through the TV guide. Students will call in for one reason, and they expect that you're going to tell them the next thing that they need to know. Student calls in and says, "I just applied." Our next question should not just be, "Great, let me help you get registered," but we should also make sure that they have their financial aid in, ask about testing, have they applied for the scholarship? They don't know the next question to ask, and they expect that we're going to give them the answer before they ask that question. 24/7 assistance. We discovered through a student survey that most of our students are actually doing their enrollment related tasks after business hours between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I can't get somebody to work during those hours, so we knew we needed to find a solution that would meet their needs. And again, ability to self-serve just links right back to that DIY comment from before. So it was with those characteristics of our students in mind that we launched the Hub in November of 2017. The Hub is Ocean County College's answer to the one-stop shop, and we link together admissions registration, advising financial aid, and we've recently added on cashiering. So that siloed approach that we previously spoke about was eliminated. Students can come in, have all of their college business taken care of in one phone call, one email, or one visit to campus. We added communications on in May of 2008 under Dr. Racioppi's tutelage. What that means is that any emails, phone calls, or text messages are now coming from the one stop. And the reason for that is when a student calls in, as we alluded to earlier, they have multiple questions. Instead of transferring that student around, either in person or over the phone, our team can answer all of those questions. They know all of the answers about registering a student, checking to see what financial aid documents they're missing, scanning their transcript into our SIS system. So having cross-trained employees ensures that the students are being assisted in a central location. The structure of our department, we have a director, assistant director, there's a communications coordinator, and we use a part-time structure. The reason is that they are less likely to burn out, and we keep them in 2-hour blocks. So they're 2 hours doing outgoing calls, 2 hours at the front desk, 2 hours taking incoming calls, and it keeps them fresh and bright-eyed all the time. The communications that we've taken on, we use a 3-modality approach for our communication: emails, text messages, and phone calls. Because our team is already cross-trained, we're able to reach out to students proactively and invite them to take that next action step instead of waiting for them to call or email us. Our CRM system is Ellucian's Recruit, and it tracks all communications. Anybody that answers a phone or makes an outgoing call can see all communications that the college has had with a given potential student at any time. We know exactly why someone is calling us. We know exactly why they're emailing us, and we know the last communication they had, no matter who the person was that they spoke with. It makes sure that we are setting the proper expectations for follow-ups. We use Simon Sinek's The Power of Why in order to train our team in sales. And I know that it seems a different approach, and as Jerry said before, it's a proprietary model. We do use the golden circle. As Simon Sinek said, it's not what you do, but it's why you do it. So to give you a brief example, it's very important that we look at why we're selling something instead of what we're selling. Previously, a recruitment or enrollment technician would say, want to go to college? We have different academic programs. You already lost them, right? So what we do is we actually start with the why. We talk about Ocean County College believing in affordable education. We're student-centered. It's a high-quality educational experience. It'll prepare and empower you in order to contribute and succeed in the global society. How do we do that? We offer engaging academic programs and courses in a variety of modalities to meet your needs. What do? Oh, we also offer associate's degrees. Want to go? It's stronger if you start with the why. And so that is the foundation in which we train our sales team. To give you an idea of the success that we've had since we've taken on the communications a couple of years ago, our inquiry and application rate. You may or may not know that a student is 400% more likely to enroll in an institution if you reach them within an hour of their inquiry. When the hub took over communications, we were taking about 10 days to reach an inquiry. We were taking about 5 days to reach out to somebody who had just applied. They hit submit, it took us 5 days. We are now hitting our inquiries and our applicants within the same day. We've maintained that through the pandemic as well. I think it's helpful to note. Our goal is that our technicians should be making somewhere between 20 to 25 outgoing calls an hour. They're marking those in our CRM system. We're also able to see how many calls are going out of their phones. We understand by doing that if they're reaching people. If they're not, we can see if they left a message or if the person answered. That enables us to dig into the analytics more and understand the best days and the times to make phone calls. We know the best times are between 6 to 8 p.m. Gen Z doesn't wake up before noon. We know the best days of the week are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Mondays, they're just getting into the week. Fridays, the week is already over. So you really have a 3-day period in order to successfully reach our students on the phone. We also understand that the kind of message that we're putting out matters. Phone calls that are congratulatory, that are positive, those have really great feedback. We spin everything to have a really positive tone. We wouldn't call a student and say, hey, you're failing your English class. We would call that student and say, great news. We want to tell you about our tutoring services today. Instead of leaving really in-depth voicemails, hi, this is Ocean County College. We're calling to invite you to an open house. It's going to be on Saturday from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We hope that you can make it. Well, now they're not going to call us back. We leave vague voicemails that encourage our students to call us back, things that are engaging and value added and entice them to call and find out what's next. We use a third-party marketing company in order to do some of our outside marketing for our non-traditional students. We have custom RFIs, which is a request for information, and phone numbers. Each of those is linked back to the hub. So when somebody inquires online or calls in, it actually all comes through the one stop, and we're able to see why they reached out to us so we can customize our message. Before we had the third-party marketing company, we had been outsourcing our onboarding, and we had a success rate of a little less than 2% on the matriculation of lead to enrollment. To give you an example here, we did a campaign for free college, and this is the lifetime campaign through April's data. We had 3,342 total inquiries. So that's students that either filled out a request for information online or picked up the phone and called that specific number for this campaign. We removed 543 students because they were already students, meaning they were already enrolled in a prior, current, or future term. I was left with almost 2,800 pure leads from these campaigns. Of those pure leads, I had 415 newly enrolled students for a total of 6,573 credits. That's a yield rate of 14.83%, which is exceptional in the world of admissions. That actually gave us a revenue of a little over $1.2 million, which is nowhere near what we spent on these campaigns. We've run a variety of campaigns focused on non-traditional students, including this one. We've also done things like math and science, accelerated business, program specific. Our overall matriculation rate is 13.99%. As Dr. Larson said before, sometimes we made decisions and thought, what are we getting ourselves into? And I clearly remember the day that I spoke to Dr. Larson and asked if I could buy a robot. And I did. We started using an AI chatbot back in November of 2017. I lovingly refer to that as his birthday. His name is Reginald. Our students call him Reggie. And he assists us with proactive nudges, on-demand assistance, and communicating with our students in a way that they're already comfortable. We know that their cell phones is how they communicate. So Reggie will send a message, and then the student responds, and then Reggie responds back. We have had a lot of success with Reggie. We also moved Reggie, instead of just being on text messages, to online. So since January alone, we've had 23,104 incoming messages. The number is a little thrown off because the week that we went remote, Reggie had over 11,000 incoming messages from students. Students had a lot of questions and they wanted the answers in the modality in which they were comfortable. That equates out to the rest of the year, the past 6 months. We get about 2,500 incoming messages or questions a month for Reggie. That doesn't include any of the surveys that we do. Reggie does surveys like, do you have the technology you need to succeed in your classes? Do you need a laptop? Does your laptop have a microphone and a webcam? Are you interested in a virtual commencement? We've used Reggie a lot throughout this pandemic, but we also used Reggie a lot before the pandemic, so the students knew him and were comfortable with him. We found that about 26% of the messages that are received are in off hours. So after 8 p.m., before 8 a.m. or on the weekends. Only about 2% of the questions that we get have to be escalated to one of my team members because Reggie's unable to answer it. Our surveys have a 40 to 60% engagement rate, which is exceptional when you consider 10 to 12% is the normal open rate for an email within higher education. And our students really appreciate the banter. They appreciate the messages, and it allows us to communicate with them at a granular level that really speaks to who they are. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Racioppi if he is still with us.
I am. I've been cutting in and out. Can you hear me? Okay. So here's the outcomes of all of this activity. Last academic year was the first year in quite a long time where we actually had an enrollment increase. We have increased summer enrollment for the last 3 years. We are currently up 12.3% in credits for summer 2020. We increased the yield of Ocean County graduating seniors from the high schools from 26% to 32% in 2 years. We're slightly down due to the pandemic and because for fall, and it's, but for new students, it's just very slight. It's we're short less than 100 students right now, and it's important to know that the previous year we were up 20%. So we're really just competing against ourselves when it comes to new student recruitment right now, and it's because we had 16 or 17 in-person registration days on our campus, and obviously we can't do that right now. So we're pretty close. Those lists that Dr. Trump mentioned, and I apologize if this is a repeat, but we got lists from every high school counselor that we have a Pathways program running with this year, 14 lists of all the students that they expect to come to Ocean County College so we can follow up with them specifically. And every single one of those lists is considerably more than what we got last year in terms of a yield out of those high schools. So we're looking at having a very positive year. And with that being said, we already have more than half of the total number of 2020 graduates registered now that we had as of fall census last year. We're somewhere in the neighborhood of 56, 57%, which is not a bad place to be in June. So we are now on to questions and discussion. And again, apologies for my many technological difficulties.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's see. I think one of the first questions we have is a sharing question. If you folks would be willing to share the survey that you send out, or some version of it, if you could share that with me, and I can make sure it gets out to everybody.
I did send the link in the chat, Jake.
Great.
Just not to hit submit or we'll register you.
Okay. Here's a question from Peter at Passaic. If you're presenting a completed registration based on the online survey, how frequently do schedules need to be changed after a student reviews it?
I'll take that one. It's really very infrequent. There is a few students that want to do it, but what we're finding is the students, after they review it, are mostly happy. A lot of them, because we're sending out follow-up tutorials on how to use planning, are then doing that and kind of empowering themselves to make those changes. Very rarely do we get students that are making long drawn out appointments. So I think it has helped with the advising office have some more bandwidth. I really do.
Thanks, AJ. Here's a question from President Gorman at Salem. Do you at Ocean, do you call your team sales to the public, or do you use another term when working with the public?
I don't actually even refer to them as sales to the team. We've trained them in sales. They don't know that they're doing sales. They are called enrollment technicians, and they believe that they are doing customer service led transactions. We build a foundation of customer service, and the way that I explain it best is that we bake it in. So it's a terrible example, and I'm going to give it anyway. I have a 4-year-old daughter. We went to the diner. She ordered chocolate chip pancakes. The pancakes came out and they were sprinkled with chocolate chips instead, and she went hysterical crying because she wanted chocolate chip pancakes. To me, it's the same with customer service and with making sales calls. We have to bake it in. And that level of sales training has to be baked in. It can't be sprinkled on top. It can't be an afterthought. It has to be part of who they are and how you build and develop them. So they are called enrollment technicians, to answer that question.
Got it. Thank you. I think I know the answer to this question, but it's been asked. Does Ocean County College finalize modality for fall semester, in-person, online, hybrid? And I'll just add to the question, does that even make a difference as far as how you've put all of this in play?
If you can hear me, this is Jerry. This process functions whether we're on campus or not, Jake, so you were correct about that. This process functions whether we're on campus or not, assuming people's internet works. In terms of the decision, we are going to have many of our courses being delivered either online or remote. Some of the programs where we are, where we really need to be on campus, we're in the process of putting together plans and proposals for the Secretary of Higher Ed's office to consider, and Dr. Larson may want to chime in on that.
Thanks, Jerry. Well, we've pretty well said about 95% of our courses are going to be delivered either remotely or through our online program with master courses, which we've been doing for a long time. But we do expect to do nursing on campus. We expect to do lab sciences on campus. However, we're experimenting with some very interesting live streaming where the experiment could be done with the faculty member and one student and live stream it to everyone online to minimize the dangers of infection. And then there are some performing arts, fine arts, and non-credit programs in the health sciences that we think we can do with adequate separation and protecting our students. That's our number one goal, is make sure that absolutely no one who comes to the campus gets sick.
Great. Thank you. Next question is from Dawn Smith. What CRM program is used at Ocean regarding student contact?
We use Ellucian CRM Recruit. And we've integrated that with our SIS system, which is Colleague, as well as with our chatbot.
Got it. Next question is, have you changed your approach to non-traditional students or veteran students?
For veterans students, we have implemented a new department with a specific coordinator with a mission basically to concierge everything about the educational experience for veterans and military students. We believe it's very important for us to create not only what you might call a safe space, which is our Veterans and Military Resource Center, but also to provide support across the board for veterans and military students. And that center is built into our matriculation plan for veterans and military students, and it kicks in as soon as someone identifies that they're military affiliated. And so it's completely different, and there's a lot to it. We're hoping to see really great things from that. It is new, but it's based on previous experiences at other schools where we saw really great results, not only in the recruitment, but also the retention and graduation rates of veterans. So it's a really, really great development. The hub handles all the basically, if you're a prospective student, the hub manages the matriculation process for you, regardless of whether you are a recent high school graduate or 70 years old. It doesn't matter. We know exactly where every person is in terms of how far along they have come through the matriculation process, and the hub makes proactive phone calls and text messages, and also sends those emails to move people through the matriculation pipeline to get them registered. That is how we were able to increase our matriculation rate from our advertising leads by so much, because we never leave it alone.
Got it. Thank you. Well, we're up against the hour at noon. Before we call it a webinar, Dr. Larson, team, Dr. McMenamin, anything to add before we call this a webinar?
Thank you, Jake. Just let me say thanks to our wonderful team that has done all of this discovery and innovation work. And again, I want to emphasize that this is all part of the overarching strategic approach to dealing with students. We think that it works, and we don't mind if someone calls it sales, but we know that there's some sensitivity about that. So diplomacy encourages us to have folks use the sales processes, but perhaps not reveal that's what's actually happening here. It really does come down to excellent customer service. And as you know, those of you who buy your sneakers from Amazon, it's a simple process, and we want to make it just as simple to get into college. We're an open door institution. Why is that door closed when someone calls up and says, I want to go there?
Jake, thank you for setting this up. Thank you, President Larson, for your leadership and your generosity in sharing your wisdom and the wisdom of your team with the rest of us. I know there'll be some follow-up questions, and I'm hoping that your team, Jerry, Sheenah, and AJ, are willing to accept some of those questions as they enter into your mail inboxes after we convene, after we finish this meeting. So thanks again, Jake and President Larson, everybody. God bless you all. Stay safe. We'll see you back here on Zoom sometime.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Great job.